Very few people have access to a greenhouse to start their seeds in, but you don't actually need one to have success. For so many years, I started all of the seedlings for our flower farm in my basement, and in this chapter, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. So one of the most surprising things when it comes to seed starting is that your little baby plants, after you sow them, they don't actually even need light to germinate or sprout. They just need heat and humidity. So you want to keep a really close eye on your baby plants after you sow those seeds. And as soon as about 50% of your seed tray has started to sprout, you want to pop the lid off and get them under light. So window light is not enough. I know it's easy to think that you can just put them by a window and turn your tray around every day, but it's not actually enough light for them to thrive. So if you don't have a greenhouse, you've got to give them lights like this so that they can get off to a good start. When choosing a spot for your seed starting setup, it's really important that the temperature in the room stays above freezing. So I'm out here in my little flower studio, which never goes below freezing, but it's not super warm out here either. It really ranges from about 50 to 60 degrees, which is actually the perfect temperature range to keep my little plants in active growth. So I've got my little seed starting shelf behind me, tucked into the corner of my little space, and next I'm going to show you the supplies you need to make one of your own. So when it comes to gathering supplies for your little seed starting setup, the stuff you need is really pretty basic. So first of all, you need some kind of shelf, something that you can set your seed trays on and hang lights from. You just want to make sure that the distance between the shelves is big enough to accommodate for a seed tray, growing plants, and lights that you're probably going to raise. So I'm using a bookshelf that I already had here at my house, but you could also buy one or just use something else that you have. A lot of people just use those simple kind of silvery metal shelves that you can get really inexpensively from anywhere. And you can also raise and lower the shelves to whatever specifications you want. Next up, you need some type of ballast lighting. You can either go with LEDs or fluorescents, doesn't really matter. I found that both work equally well, but you don't need any big fancy like special grow light tubes or any special bulbs. Just get the cheapest ones that they've got at the hardware store. They really will work just fine. And then lights need to be on between 14 and 16 hours to provide enough light for plants to grow. So you can either set a timer on your phone and turn your lights on and off manually, or you can get one of those little inexpensive timers from the hardware store and then just set it ahead of time and it'll just do its thing. And then as your baby plants are going to be growing, you're going to need to raise the lights and keep them about 2 inches above the canopy of plants. I love to use a chain because I can just go up 1 link at a time and raise the lights, but you can also use string or twine, whatever you've got laying around works perfectly fine. Then next, if you're not growing in a super warm space, you're gonna need to provide some kind of supplemental heating to help your little seedlings germinate. So if you don't have your seed starting area in a hot spot, you're gonna need to have some kind of heating on the base of the plants. So you can pick up these inexpensive little heat mats at your local hardware store. This one will do 1 tray at a time, but I have invested in a little bit of a larger mat and I can do 5 or 6 trays at once, and I've just tucked it here on top of my shelf. And that's really all you need to have an awesome little seed starting setup. The supplies are really pretty basic. So you want to check on your baby plants daily just to monitor that the lights are at the right height, that everybody's doing okay, and that nothing needs water. It's definitely important that you don't let your baby plants dry out. So the benefit of having these no-hole trays for starting your seeds in is that it makes watering so much easier. If you used a tray with holes in it, you'd have to take your tray outside, use a watering can or a hose, and then when you brought it in, it would actually be dripping down on the lights, which can be kind of a little scary hazard and make a big mess. But with the no-hole trays, you just slide the tray out, pour your water in, and then just nestle the little seedlings back in. And then those little plants just wick the water up from the bottom, and that's it. You want to keep your baby plants watered, but you don't want to overwater them at the same time. So if your plants haven't sucked up the water that you gave them in about a half an hour, I just take my trays and you can just walk it outside and then just tip it and you can pour out the excess water, because the worst thing is to have their little roots in standing water because they can rot. So your baby plants are going to actually live in this space until it's safe to transfer them from this cozy, warm environment out into the garden after your last spring frost. In this chapter, we discussed how to start seeds indoors. And with a simple shop light setup just like this, your baby plants are going to do great.